Hello, everyone. Welcome to Self-Knowledge. Today, having lecture number 25 of the set of 50 lectures. And today, we're having a very interesting topic as every Sunday. Today, we are going to be talking about exoterism, pseudo-exoterism, and esoterism. This is going to be a very interesting lecture. Allow me just a second to check if everything is okay with the broadcast, and we start with this interesting lecture. Okay, allow me just a second. Okay, everything is okay, so let's start with today's lecture. This lecture has as its aim or objective that we learn to distinguish an esoteric school from a pseudo-esoteric school and to understand what our position in knowledge is and when is that we really begin the experience of the esoteric work. You know that when we have spiritual concerns, when we have these spiritual longings, when we want to seek answers to all that unanswered questions that we keep inside, or when we feel that inner impulse to seek for that union with that is superior to us, we find that there are lots of knowledge, lots of theories, of religions, of dogmas, etc. And most of the time we can get confused because we don't know how we are going to find that true inner knowledge that can really lead us to find our path back to that source, to that God, to that divinity, to that absolute, sacred, absolute Son, from where we all came. So for that reason, it's important that we get to understand how to distinguish the different knowledge that we find in the world. So first, let's start by talking a little about what the exoterism is. The exoterism with an X, and that is exterior knowledge. All the knowledge that we receive in this world and that we receive through books or through courses in this external world. Like, for example, all the information, all the knowledge that we received at school, in the kindergarten, in high school, in a college, in all the courses that we took, like online courses or I don't know, everything that we get to receive as a knowledge in this exterior world is going to be part of what is called the exoterism. All this knowledge is received through personality. Our personality is that like mask, is that facade that we create every time that we come again to this manifestation. Every time that we die and we are born again, we we develop a new personality, and this facade that we have is the one that we use to express ourselves to the world. And our personality is marked by the things that we like and by our interests. So you are going to see that we seek to acquire knowledge according to the things that we like and according to our interests. For example, if you like fashion, so you are always going to be looking for information to achieve knowledge regarding fashion. So you are going to see videos, so you're going to look for magazines and so on. If you like cars, like for example, you are going to look to know about that. So you're going to be looking to acquire knowledge about cars. If you like politics, the same. So the same if you like spirituality things, metaphysics, or things about the awakening of consciousness, you are also going to be looking to nourish yourself with that knowledge, to look in books, to look in Facebook pages, to look in churches, etc., for this type of knowledge. And the same, many of us came to this page, for example, and are listening to these lectures because we like the themes of the astral projection or meditation or spirituality, etc. But it is difficult that among so much knowledge that is currently shown to obtain a pure knowledge. A knowledge that gives us a clear and precise teachings and practices that allows to really advance in our inner work. Many fascinating things are found everywhere. But the thing is that they don't lead us to go deeper into our own inner knowledge. That is the important. And among so much knowledge that there is today, it is actually really a privilege to find a pure knowledge. And rare are like the lucky ones who find it. That is the reason of that phrase that says that out of 1,000 who seek me, only one finds me. Because not everyone manages to find pure knowledge. And they remain like entangled and lost in all those schools and knowledge that don't really lead them to that desired esoteric knowledge. And sometimes, even because of karma, there are many who just doesn't have the right to receive the knowledge in this existence because in a past existence, for example, they receive the knowledge and they make bad use of it, and for that reason, because of karma, they don't have like they don't have the right to receive the knowledge in this existence, and for that reason, they don't find it. Sometimes they just get lost there in theories and stuff, and in case they find it, they are just going to pass it by. They are not going to resonate with the pure knowledge. But it is important to know that when a person receives the knowledge, the pure knowledge, based in the 3 factors for consciousness revolution, he also receives it as an exoteric knowledge with X. The whole self-knowledge course that we are given for free in this page is an exoteric knowledge. These 50 lectures that we are broadcasting here are all exoteric knowledge. We are receiving it externally, and is our personality the one that is receiving it. And if we don't put it into practice, it will remain just as another theory, a very nice concept that sounds very logical, and it's going to just stop there. So we are not going to take it to become a real esoteric or inner knowledge. And what happens that when a person receives this knowledge, the knowledge for the 3 factors for consciousness revolution, 2 paths are opened. The first one is the path of the believer, and those are the people that will take this knowledge as another information to accumulate. Will decide just to believe in this because, it actually resonates with him, because it seems logical or because it seems interesting, but will not make an effort to actually put these teachings into practice, to take them into, test them. And the second path is the path of the believer. No, I'm sorry, the practitioner. The practitioner is the one who receives this knowledge and he puts this into practice. He does not believe. He goes and he checks. For example, he receives the astral unfolding lecture, and he goes and he practices, and he just make the practice until he proves it, until he gets to verify by himself that it is true. So he goes and he checks. He receives the information about the psychological death or about the reflexive meditation, and he goes and he checks it. He puts it into practice. He don't settle for just believing or not believing. The same with the supersexuality. He receives the information, and if it is a practitioner, he is going to put that into practice. So he is going to achieve chastity. He is going to get to light his sacred fire. He is going to receive his silver sword in the inner world. He's going to begin to condense his energy in his spine, and he is going to begin to make his initiations of major mysteries. That is the practitioner, the one that is going to start living the path. And for that reason, it's only the practitioner, the one that enters to a mesoteric stage. That is the means to reach to the Exoterism, to reach to the inner knowledge. And that is the reason why they said, out of 1,000 who finds me, only one follows me. Because out of 1,000 people who manages to find a pure knowledge, focus to practice, only one takes the path of the practitioner. So only one is the one who begins to live this path. So enters to this interesting mesoteric stage. Let's now check what is the Pseudo-Esoterism. And pseudo is another word for false or fake, and esoterism is inner knowledge. So pseudo-esoterism means false inner knowledge or fake inner knowledge. And this false inner knowledge is related to all those theories that exist in the world. All the religions, sects, concepts, masters, gurus, pastors, and schools in general that teaches that it's only through them that we can join the divinity. That is only through them that we are going to achieve liberation, or that promises us that only through them we are going to get the salvation of our souls. So we see that there are lots of religion. Actually, before there were only the 5 basic religions, the Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, and Judaism. But now there are more than 5,000 religions in the world, that without counting the sects, and they all have something in common, and that is that they all claim to have the truth and to have the salvation, and that their place is the only place that handles the truth, and that the rest of religions, they are all wrong. And the thing is that we go to another one, and the other one says the exact same thing. Something important that we need to know is that in all cases, all this false knowledge is received by the personality, and therefore never is received by the consciousness. And when we start opening our eyes to see this reality, and when we start to research these schools internally, we get to verify that it is just a merchandise of souls, books, and theories. Among so many unverified theories, the person enters into a state of confusion. And rare is the one who, among, like you said, the co-web of so many contradictory ideas, truly manages to find the secret path. And that is why many just simple follow the religion of their parents or of their close ones, and just to not get complicated with all the number of religions and the theories that exist. And they just settle to believe that through that belief they will reach salvation. And when you like see what is moving on in all these schools, churches, sects, and etc., you see that they fight to see which one has more souls, which one can attract more souls, and this just has become a merchandise of souls, sadly. But the thing is that humanity is actually submerged into two poles, in the materialism and the psychism. And the materialism is the pursuit of luxuries, money, prestige, travels, cars, possessions, a good job, everything that the world can give us. That is what humanity is searching for. But by the other hand, they are also pursuing this psychism, this false spiritualism, where everyone belongs to some spiritual current, some sect, some religion, some philosophy. Also, the atheism is another unproven belief that some just believe in. And these two poles, the materialism and the psychism, are mixed because people, you can see that, go to church, pray to the divinity or to the God that they believe in, or to work with elementals or with entities, and for what? To ask for materialism. And you can see that the pseudo-esoteric churches or schools that attract the most people are those that promises that they are going to lead you, to obtain material abundance and material prosperity. And if they give the quote or wherever, that they will enjoy material abundance, or they do work with entities or elementals and stuff to solve the economic problems. So actually, this is where most of humanity is let's say, confused for. That is the two poles that are actually handling the whole humanity. And how are we going to recognize a pseudo-esoterism school? How can we recognize them? Actually, they have certain characteristics that we should consider. The first one is that they always charge for knowledge. Can it be directly or indirectly? Like, for example, they can ask you to give monthly a certain amount of money, or they can keep pressuring you to give your offering, or indirectly, they are not asking you monthly for money, but they keep selling you stuff regarding their school. And many relate actually esoterism to the sale of perfumes, oils, talismans, candles, books, beverage, ropes, etc. And it has nothing to do with truly esoterism. Another characteristic, is that they don't teach the three factors for the consciousness revolution. They never teach how to eliminate our ego, how to liberate our consciousness through psychological death. They don't teach how to achieve chastity. They don't teach the practice for the suprasexuality, the need of make a wise use of our sexual energy so we can create ourselves internally, and they don't teach that we must unselfishly sacrifice for humanity, help the other brothers of humanity to awaken if they desire so. And if they teach it, because you can find some schools that actually talk about the three factors from consciousness revolution, most of them do not teach how to do them. So they don't give the precise practices. And most of the pseudo-esoteric schools, what they urge is like for the sacrifice for humanity, but only looking for people to join their church, their institution, or their sect. But since they charge for what they teach, it is not actually a sacrifice for humanity, because you are not doing it for free. And another characteristic is that they teach black tantrism. Say they don't teach chastity. They don't teach how, or that we need to unite sexually with our partner and send this sexual energy inward and upward, but they teach that we need to expose our energy. They actually think is or teach is fine that we fornicate, or they teach us to practice celibacy. And another characteristics of the pseudo-esoteric schools is that, or are, that they don't teach to truly die. They actually, as I was saying, do not teach the precise way to eliminate our ego, to eliminate our sins. Most of them talk about the sins, but they think that an external entity or person is going to come and save us from our sins. They actually don't teach that we must save ourselves, that we must search for the divinity inside us, and that the divinity is actually, trapped within each one of our sins, into each one of our negative ways or beings, eyes, or ego. So they don't teach that we need to self-observe at every moment, that we need to judge ourselves, and they don't teach that we have in our consciousness that powerful force that is our divine mother, that is going to help you to eliminate every defect that we manage to observe, to discover, and to judge inside of us. They also don't teach us that we must pay karma. They don't teach that karma must be paid full at once, and also that it can be negotiated. So they don't teach how to negotiate karma. So they don't teach that actually when we sacrifice for humanity, when we help others, we are receiving dharma, so we can pay for all our karmas. Also, they say that all roads lead to Rome. And by saying this, they are saying that no, it doesn't matter which way you take, it doesn't matter where you go, or what religion or divinity you trust in. Actually, we all are going to get back to Rome, which is actually love. That is the meaning, which is God. And by doing this, they are confusing people, because actually, yes, it's true, we are all going to get back to the source again. But if you don't find the way into yourself so you can rescue all the wisdom that we came to rescue here, if you don't manage to create yourself internally, if you don't manage to awaken our consciousness, to eliminate all the ego inside you and get enlightened, actually you're going back to source, but as a failure. You came here, but you didn't make the work that you need to do. So this is actually something that can confuse people. Another characteristic is that they suggest or state that the esoteric knowledge, the inner knowledge, can be learned in books, as they are intellectuals, and that is not true. And they give teachings that you can say are like of an favorable appearance, something like beautiful that sounds like, I don't know, so special, that actually don't lead anywhere. Those are teachings that just confuse. They teach many things and are just distracting elements. Also, they develop fanaticism and the mythomania, as we learned in the lecture about fanaticism and mythomania. Also, they mix forces. They use white things and black things, and they tend to mix them. And when you mix two forces, two like forces that are not like equal, then a third force is created that is actually destructive. And they teach practices of the Black Lodge, so they are going to teach you to awaken powers, to work with or to handle candles, cards, ropes. They teach hypnotism, parapsychology, mediumism, and witchcraft, spiritism, elemental manipulation, sorcery, etc. Also, they teach and practice different forms of healing, but this without having a permission or even without taking into account a divine law, as every illness is karmic. And what they do is that by healing you, they are actually linking you to the entity that are giving them the power to heal you. They are giving you the power to do so, and this is something that we need that we need also to investigate internally. And the main difference between a white wizard and a black wizard is the quality of their knowledge. That is a true way to differentiate between something that is actually working for the Black Lodge, that someone that is actually working for the White Lodge. And when we read the book of a black wizard, even if we don't know it, we are invoking him. That is why it's important that we settle for practice to get our own inner knowledge. And in case we are like receiving knowledge from someone, somewhere, it is important that we go to the astral world and we investigate that person or that school. We must ask our inner being to show us the pureness of that school, or to show us if that person is actually someone to trust in, if it's actually someone that is working for the White Lodge. And in lecture number 7, for example, we taught the conjurations that we can use when we invoke a master or someone, a wizard, and when we conjurate that person 3 times with the Jupiter conjuration, we can get to know if it's actually someone to trust in. And also, we can ask that person to show us his sword. And if they have the sword in the right hand, then there we know that it's a white wizard. And if they have the sword or another instrument in the left hand, then it is a black wizard. And another thing is that they don't teach that self-realization must be sought, and that it must be achieved in a single existence. So many of them can tell you that you can work on yourself until one point in this life, and that in your next life you are going to continue working on yourself from that point on. But that is not true, because if you just take your work, until one point, by law of recurrence, in your next existence is going to happen the exact same thing. You are going to get to that point, and because of that situation or because of that concept, you are going to stop working on yourself in the exact same point, and by doing so, you can like actually exhaust your 108 existences as human and go into involution without having make sorry the work to self-realize yourselves. And happens that with all this confusion, with all these contradictory ideas and foreign elements, little by little, the trust in our own inner being is being lost, and one ends up trusting in foreign elements, trusting in a so-called master or guru or divinity or whatever, and we lose and we stop looking for our own inner being, from our own inner divinity. That is the danger of the pseudo-esoterism. Now, to finish, let's talk about the esoterism. And what is? Well, exoterism is the inner knowledge, is the occult knowledge or the hidden knowledge that is inside of us, that we can only find within ourselves, in our own inner worlds, that is actually beneath all the layers of egoic conditioning that we actually have. And how is it received? Well, this knowledge is actually for our consciousness. So it is not possible to get the esoteric knowledge in any external place, in any manual of conduct or in any book or in any school from the outside world. This knowledge is only received in our inner worlds. And the true Esoterism, what it looks for is the knowledge of oneself, which is only or can only be found within ourselves. So this is looking for us to achieve the self-realization of our being. That is the only purpose of the esotericism. And how are we going to achieve this inner knowledge? How are we going to find that knowledge that is inside ourselves? Well, actually, by working, by practicing the three factors for consciousness revolution. The esoteric knowledge can only be reached through the three factors of the revolution of the consciousness, which are the only three objective works to do. The psychological death, as I was explaining, to eliminate all our conditionings, all that ways of being that actually have trapped our consciousness, by practicing the psychological death and by practicing the spiritual birth, which is to be born, and which is done by practicing the suprasexuality with a partner of an opposite sex, a stable partner. And we explain that practice in lecture number 17. Actually, in lecture number 17, we talk about these three factors and we explain how to do them. And the third one is a sacrifice for humanity, to unselfishly to share this knowledge with all the humanity, with all the brothers of humanity, so they have the opportunity to awaken if they desire so. And to the extent that we liberate our consciousness, each spark of consciousness that is liberated is actually going to give us a knowledge that is going to become a part of our own inner knowledge. We all have a consciousness, but actually we only have, let's say, present in most of us, even asleep, a 3% of consciousness. 97% of our consciousness is trapped within our ego. And when we manage to liberate this consciousness by practicing the psychological death, when we manage to fix that liberated consciousness with a 3%, with the practice of the super sex. And when we manage to awaken in that consciousness the love by practicing the sacrifice for humanity, then we start to develop our inner knowledge. Something that is important to know is that also we are going to start, as we start awakening, as we start practicing, we are going to start receiving in our inner world, in the, for example, the astral projection practice or the meditation practice, we are going to start to receive a lot of information from our inner being. And that is the esoteric knowledge. And this esoteric knowledge that our inner being is going to start unfolding to us can be received as a closed book, and that means that this knowledge that we are receiving is only for us. It only belongs to our being. So if we receive knowledge regarding, for example, our initiations or about our inner advances or so many others informations, and we receive, for example, in the astral world, a closed book, when they are showing us that information, that means that this information is not to be shared. It's just for us. It belongs to us. For example, our advances, initiations, etc. And if you receive the information as a closed book, then you have to know to silence. That is important, because when we learn to silence the esoteric knowledge that we receive, then we open the doors to receive more. But if the knowledge that we receive is as an open book, then it can be delivered to our students, to the people that we are teaching this knowledge to. And each being has its own knowledge. Each one of us have come here and have lived different experiences one from another, and each one has its own knowledge. That is why it is not important for me the knowledge that another people have developed. Actually, the knowledge that I must search for is the one that manages my own inner being. And to the extent that the consciousness awakens and enters in harmony with nature, that wisdom that we had long ago is going to be recovered. And that is something very interesting. And as a practitioner, who is the one that enters into the mesoteric stage, and that is the one that starts living the path, well, goes verifying this work with the 3 factors for consciousness revolution and the different practices learned, then he does his initiations of major mysteries until finishing what is called the first mountain of this work. And when he starts the second mountain, he becomes a hope for the esoteric knowledge. By doing his second mountain, he goes through the resurrection process. Then there he enters the esoteric school of his ray as an adept. And in the third mountain, by integrating the 3 forces into one, we are going to learn more about this in the course. And when he managed to fuse with his father, to become one with his own inner being, just there, at that point, he becomes a true esoterist. So, esotericist. Sorry, that is a hard word for me. And just at that moment, by finishing these 3 mountains, that is a work into ourselves, he reaches the first step of the universal wisdom. So, as we can see, a mistake that most of us falls in is that we start feeling that we are esoteristic when we are just beginning to listen to these lectures, for example, or that we start feeling initiated without having started practicing the supersex, or that we start feeling like saints, or that we start feeling holy without having eliminated the first of our psychological defects, or that we start feeling like practitioners without starting actually to practice. And all this happens because of this false feeling of the ego, because all our ego is going to lead us to start feeling ourselves that we are fine, that we are awakened, that we already know, so we don't do the work that we need to do on ourselves to start actually awakening. And as I was saying, to the extent that the consciousness awakens and we enter into harmony with nature, we are given the wisdom that we had a long time ago. So this has been today's lecture. I hope it was helpful for you, and I want to invite you to next Sunday lectures, in which we are going to talk about the world of relationships. That is going to be the lecture number 26 of this self-knowledge course. And in that lecture, we are going to discover how to improve the relationships with our physical body, with our environment, with all the people, and with our inner being, thus achieving the true happiness. So don't miss that lecture. This has been all for today. Thank you for watching the video. See you next Sunday, and bye bye.